We're ready to begin into chapter 7 in our study of Hebrews, which means we've crossed the halfway point of our study, and I hope it's been a study that you're enjoying. And boy, we're going to have some fun in your groups tonight, because we're going to begin to deal with an incredible character in the Bible. It's a story in chapter 7 of a priest named Melchizedek. Now, we just see him one time in the Old Testament. He shows up in Genesis chapter 14. And that's very interesting. The Bible tells us, we see it right here in Hebrews chapter 7, that Melchizedek is very different. It says that Melchizedek is a priest of righteousness. That talks about his nature, his character. It also says that he is without father or mother, or beginning of days or end. In other words, what that's really saying is we don't know much about Melchizedek. Now that's fascinating, because the Hebrews were so focused on genealogies. In fact, you go and you read Matthew's gospel, which was really the gospel to the Jews. It really begins with genealogy. So this Melchizedek doesn't have one. Now here's what's very interesting, and you're going to have to kind of hang in here for just a little bit. One of the Jewish objections to Jesus' messiahship was that he didn't descend from the tribe of Levi. In other words, if he was going to be the ultimate high priest, as the writer of Hebrews says, then he should come about that by the natural way of doing that. Well, for the Jews, the priestly class, the Levitical priesthood, descended from one of the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, and that was the tribe of Levi. Now, not only did the priest have to descend from the tribe of Levi, but they also were from the family line of Aaron, Moses' brother. Now the first priest was Aaron, which doesn't take place until the book of Exodus. So way before that, we're introduced to this priest, Melchizedek. And the father of faith, Abraham, when we pick up the story in Genesis chapter 14, Abraham is coming back from battle, and he has this interaction with Melchizedek. He sees Melchizedek, and he pays his tithe to Melchizedek. And what the writer of Hebrews is wanting to show is that the ultimate high priest, which is Jesus Christ, he is going to descend not from the Levitical priesthood, but you see, their priesthood was really dependent on their family line. In other words, the priest, the determining factor for the next priest was that they came from the right family line. Well, with Melchizedek, we don't even have an understanding of his family background. There's no genealogical record on him. Why was he a priest? He was a priest based on his righteousness, based on his character. And so Jesus Christ is in this whole new line of priests, which actually is not new at all. It precedes the Levitical priesthood. Now, what that did for me the first time I realized that, because I was a person that was kind of stumped with that, because it seems like Jesus kind of descends from really a whole different line. Why did God do that? Why didn't he just follow through with this priestly line through the line of Levi? Well, Jesus was from the tribe of Judah, from a different line. But in fact, what God is doing is bringing it all the way back to a priest that precedes the Levitical priesthood. That's Melchizedek. Now, you're going to spend some time in your small group today investigating Melchizedek and these connections, and how he is really foreshadowing Jesus as our ultimate high priest. I believe it's going to be something that's going to create some great discussion for you. I also believe this is another one of those instances when you interact with Melchizedek in this story, that it's really going to be an aha moment for you. You're going to see the Bible begin to coalesce and come together for you, and it's going to solidify your faith. As we close out this chapter, I think what the writer of Hebrews wants us to see is, again, this understanding that we have the ultimate high priest in Jesus Christ. Under the old system, a person's stance with God was really based on self-effort. It was based on human performance, acts of righteousness over and over again. But now, in the new covenant, what the writer of Hebrews wants us to see is our stance with God, our standing with God is not on self-effort and not on our own righteousness, but it is on the perfect righteousness of our perfect high priest, Jesus Christ. And so I can take my stand because of who I am in Jesus Christ, not based on my performance again, not based on my own self-righteousness, but based upon who Jesus Christ is for me. Now, it's important before we leave here, the writer of Hebrews is going to go on to say that because we're in Christ, we are a royal priesthood. Now, what does that mean? Well, one of the benefits of being a priest was they had access to the Holy of Holies. And so what the writer of Hebrews wants us to see, not only do we have the ultimate high priest in Jesus Christ who has given us our standing, but we have access into the very presence of God because of who we are in Jesus Christ. And I believe it's those type things, when you begin to get your arms around them, get your mind around that, and begin to understand it, that it's going to help you take your stand for Jesus Christ.